Hey guys, what is up? It's Kat here. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday season and a wonderful new year as well, and I hope that 2020 has some great things in store for you. I apologize that it has taken me so long to get this video out. It almost doesn't even feel relevant anymore, but it has been several weeks now since The Rise of Skywalker came out in theaters. I have seen it twice since then, but it's taken me forever to get this video to you guys, and so I apologize for that. But at the same time, it's almost maybe a good thing that I've been so delayed in sharing my reaction, because it has been a topic of conversation and great debate, and people have been getting very heated within the past few weeks with lots of mixed opinions and some people not very happy with what happened. So in a way, maybe it's a good thing that I'm discussing it after the fact, kind of, while people could let their opinions fizzle down and everyone's calmed down a little bit, maybe, hopefully. And I also just want to say that I honestly wasn't even considering making one of these videos, and I was very, very, very hesitant to share my opinion, because I will just say it right now, I am one of the few people, it seems, who liked the movie, but I was reluctant to make a video and create a platform and a comment section for people to fuel the fire and spew hate and just share their passionate concerns with the film. But I didn't want to make a video that was going to produce a breeding ground of hatred towards the movie or Disney or any of the cast and crew involved. I'm not saying that you are not allowed to have negative opinions or emotions towards the film. Obviously, we are all a little bit divided right now, but I just want to let you know that I don't want my comment section to be a breeding ground for trolling and hating and taking your words personally against any of the cast and crew involved in the movie, because as someone who did some very, very, very minor acting in a Star Wars independent fan film, I know how much it stinks to work really hard on something and see people work very hard on something and then, you know, see some hate comments toward it. I just don't want my comment section to target Disney whatsoever, because I very much would like to work for them in the future, maybe. So yes, just keep that in mind as we go forward. Other than that, I'm just going to jump right in. Needless to say, if you had not seen the movie, don't watch this. I'm sure, since it's been like several weeks now since the movie actually came out, that the majority of you guys who subscribe to me have probably watched it, but in the event that you haven't, don't watch this. And I want to preface by saying that, as you guys know, I was truly excited for the movie, building up to it, seeing the trailers. I really couldn't wait for it, and I was optimistic about it. I wanted to go in with an open mind, like a clean slate, with no prejudgments or anything like that. I really, really, really just wanted to go in and be able to enjoy this movie and not be critiquing it along the way. But as we got closer, and after the movie premiered in Europe and people were starting to share their thoughts on Twitter, it started to get a little bit alarming, and I was a tiny bit concerned going into it. My excitement soon turned to dread a little bit, because I was truly concerned that I wasn't going to like the movie based on some of the other reviews and opinions that I had been seeing on the internet and on Twitter. So I tried to just keep those in the back of my head and not worry about that. But at the same time, I was very stressed going into it, and I just really, really, really wanted to enjoy it. So I will say that I went in expecting myself to be disappointed, but other than a few minor things, I wasn't. I really enjoyed the viewing experience. It was the most exciting, film experience in a theater that I think I've had in a long time. My neck, the back of my head was in pain and strained at the end of the film, because I was just so strained the entire time because so much was happening. And I know that that was a complaint that a lot of people had, that the movie felt very rushed and very fast-paced, and the equivalent of 9 movies packed into one. And I do agree with that, but at the same time, I wanted that. You guys know I wanted this movie to be like a roller coaster. I wanted a lot of action and a lot to happen, because there was a lot that needed closure and a lot of loose ends that needed to be tied up. And so I was expecting that there was going to be a lot going on in this movie, and I was totally fine with that. There was no good time to go to the bathroom during that movie, which I really like, and I thought it was great because I was really on the edge of my seat the entire time, and I really appreciated that, you know, compared to The Last Jedi, there's a lot more going on here in terms of trying to resolve the plot, jumping from one planet to the next, and there's a lot of different visual imagery and a lot of different planets and landscapes that we see, which you guys know I appreciate. I always love to see more of the Star Wars universe. I loved all of the new characters that they brought in. I think it's great seeing new people outside of the core characters that we have in the plot because they represent microcosms of the universe that we're still not seeing. Like what we see in the movies with the sequel trilogy and the core characters like Rey and Finn and Poe. And that's why I enjoy seeing new characters like Janna and Zori, and Babu Frick is my favorite thing ever, and I can't believe people are partially hating on him. He was so cute! So yeah, I really enjoyed the new characters, all the new planets that we got to see. I thought the visuals were stunning. The cinematography was phenomenal, if you ask me. And yeah, I was very pleased with the fact that I was on the edge of my seat literally the entire time, just waiting for the next thing to happen. Yes, it did feel very rushed and like it could have been a 5-hour long movie, honestly, which I would have been fine with, but I think for, you know, what J.J. Abrams had to do with the time that he was given, I think he did a great job. I think he had one of the hardest jobs in the world trying to summarize and wrap up all of these movies compiled into one finale. Yes, there were some things that I wish had been included that were neglected, but overall, like, I had so much fun watching it, and I was like so excited to go and see it for the second time. I also really enjoyed a lot of the visual parallels and the symbolism and allusions to previous movies. I didn't notice this at all on my own. This is totally my older brother's idea, but I think it's so worth sharing. He noted that the parallels between Anakin's downfall and Kylo Ren's redemption are visually like opposites. Anakin finally transforms into Vader on Mustafar, surrounded by fire and lava, and he's literally burning alive, versus Kylo Ren, who is on the Death Star, and he's surrounded by all this water. Visually, their transformations are opposites, and so are the elements that surround them, and I thought that was such a cool thing to point out. And I, of course, had just done my rewatch of all of the original trilogy and prequels, of course, and I really loved to see the connection between Luke as the Force Ghost lifting up his ship out of the water versus like Luke when he's training with Yoda, and that is like the one main task that he's trying to do and he's struggling to do it, but then we see him, you know, as this immensely powerful Force Ghost, and he's lifting it with ease. I really liked that touch there, and I thought that was great to see, especially after having just watched the originals. I thought that was awesome. As you all know, I had literally no predictions or thoughts or theories at all regarding Rey's heritage, but it's obviously what I was most there to see. Like, that's what I wanted to know the entire time. So I had no preconceptions going in at all, but I thought it was very interesting to learn that she was a Palpatine. I know that people are very, very, very upset by the fact that Palpatine's progeny, she's the one who's like saving the day when it was Palpatine who like terrorized the universe forever and ruined Anakin's life and is the reason Padme is dead and is all the bad things in the world. I know that people are very upset that he, as the core of the Sith and everything negative about the prequels and the original trilogy, it's his descendant that is now like the core of the sequels. Rey is not my favorite character, obviously, so I wasn't too like, I don't know, I wasn't too turned off by that. If anything, I think in the moment when seeing the film, I was just relieved to finally know who she was. I don't have too much to say about that just because I know a lot of people are heated about that, and yes, I understand the concerns there and I understand the complaints, but I think I just don't want to nitpick too much. I should say I don't want to hate this movie, and I really just wanted to enjoy it for what it was and be able to just have a good time in the theater. Yes, I have my complaints about Rey's heritage and Palpatine coming back and in the same movie and then dying within like the 2 hour, like, yes, there's things that are wrong with the film, absolutely, but of all of the sequels, this one was by far my favorite. As the final part of this saga, I just wanted to be able to enjoy it and be grateful that I'm alive during a time when Star Wars is alive again. I'm focusing more on just wanting to be able to look back and say, like, yes, I was there and alive and got to go see the final installment of this incredible saga, and I was able to enjoy it. Like, that's truly what I'm trying to just focus on. Yes, Palpatine's progeny would not have been my guess in terms of Rey's heritage, but it answered the question that we had all been dying to learn for the entirety of the sequel trilogy, so I was just pleased in the moment to finally learn from whence she came. In terms of Kylo Ren's ending, you all know that he was my favorite character of the sequel trilogy, even going into this movie. You all know that I did not want them to just kill him off for lack of a better idea of how to resolve his character or transition him back into the light or make him just go fully into the darkness, and so I was just very pleased with his arc overall. I thought it was the most complex of all of the characters in the sequel trilogy, and I was really, really happy with the way that they dealt with his transition back into the light. So yeah, I just really enjoyed the way that they handled his transition from this totally tormented and just completely tortured soul into like his peaceful death. And I loved that Han and Leia were such imperative roles in his transformation back into the light, because, you know, when we start in The Force Awakens, he has absolutely severed himself from his parental connections, and then it's so nice to see that they are the ones who really like transform him back to Ben Solo. I totally loved seeing Han again. I thought that moment between them was great on the Death Star, and I just thought Adam Driver's acting, like, he's just phenomenal. He's the absolute like greatest part of the sequel trilogy, if you ask me. It was just incredible to see like Ben Solo again. And I'm very saddened that we only got to see him for like 5 minutes after he turned good again, but I overall, as someone who would have been very sad to see them kill him off for lack of a better idea of what to do with Kylo Ren, I was very, very pleased with the way that his arc was completed. So, of course, the Force Ghosts, what we all were hoping for, that was all I took from the movie. Anakin's absence. Like, the one thing that wasn't in the movie, that's all I could think about after I had first seen it. I was really in a state of shock and just sadness that the one person that I really wanted to see make a comeback wasn't in it. I had said before in the past that if we heard his voice, I maybe would have been content with that, and it was very satisfying to hear his voice amongst the other Force Ghosts. Like, oh my gosh, hearing Qui-Gon again, you all know how much I love that man. I was very happy to hear his voice. It was great to hear, you know, like Luminara and all these other Jedi that I wouldn't have guessed, but it was just awesome. I really did appreciate all of the Jedi and Force voices. Force voice. So yes, as satisfying as it was to hear Anakin's, I of course was, you know, upset that we were deprived of his, you know, physical presence, or at least just the allusion to his Force ghost. I don't want to let Anakin's absence dictate my entire view of the film overall. So I think I'm just forcing myself to get over it and move on and just appreciate the fact that we even heard his voice. And I know that there are justifications for his absence in terms of the fact that he had absolutely like no connection to Rey. He wasn't her master at all. He wasn't involved in her upbringing as the Jedi. Like, so in that case, it does make sense. And as painful as it is for me to accept that, I do acknowledge the sequel trilogy as its own thing. I think a lot of the reasons that I maybe had qualms against the sequel trilogy is because it's like, it's not the original and it's not the prequels. It's its own story. These are new characters with their own issues that they have to confront and solve, and of course it's not going to be a repeat of the prequel trilogy or the original trilogy. It's new characters with new challenges they have to face. As Luke said, like, this is their fight. Like, it's moved on to them now, and I think that I had to accept that during this movie and realize that I was maybe wanting too much homage paid to the prequels and not focusing enough on the fact that Rey, Finn, Poe, Ben, like, these are all their own characters with a whole new set of issues that they had to face, and that's why they had their whole own trilogy. Do I wish there had been more homage paid to the prequels? Of course. I thought there was so much respect towards the original trilogy. I really loved seeing, you know, Leia's send-off and Luke's Force Ghost. You guys know I didn't want him to only be in it for like 2 seconds at the end, and he wasn't. I thought his inclusion was great, and it was perfect for, you know, snapping Rey out of it and showing her her place in everything, which is what she, like, wanted after all. So I thought that was great. I can't complain about how much original trilogy content we got to see there. Yeah, my biggest complaint with the film clearly is that Anakin was not in it, and as upset that I am, I don't want to let that ruin the whole movie for me, because it isn't Anakin's story anymore. It was Rey's. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna move on from that. As you all know, I am not a Reylo shipper at all, and did I nearly shrivel up into a prune in my seat and die when I saw it happen? Yes! Am I excited to see all the Reylo shippers edits on my YouTube feed now that it's been a real thing? No! But am I gonna let that ruin the movie for me? That 5-second moment there? No! I really didn't think they were going to do that. As much as it tortured me, I'm not gonna let it ruin the movie for me. And I know that there are some glaring ethical issues there. I know that a lot of people have voiced how kind of wrong it was for Rey to, of all of the people, she was romantically linked now to the one who stalked and tortured and just wanted to kill her for the entirety of the sequel trilogy. So yeah, I know that there's some glaring issues there that people have been very vocal about on Twitter, and I think that it's great that the audience is holding the writers accountable for ethical issues like that, in terms of Rey kisses the one who just solely tried to kill her the whole time. That's mainly the reason that I thought Reylo wasn't going to happen. You all know I don't approve of Reylo at all, and I really did not think it was going in that direction based on the interactions that Rey and Kylo had toward each other. They were very violent. Like, all signs did not point to Reylo. If I had to bet money on the film, I would not have bet that Reylo was going to happen. I really was in shock, and I don't want to overlook the issues that people have pointed out, and I am in no way dismissing them, and I think it's great that people are, like, voicing their opinions and calling out the directors for any ethical issues there. I just wanted to touch on that because I know all the Reylo haters are probably coming for me now because I made that whole video saying that Reylo was, like, not gonna happen. Reylo. I don't want to say that Reylo would ruin the movie for me, and at this point in time I feel like it's kind of safe to say that it's not going to happen because they've kind of just glossed over it and it would feel very rushed. But I can't imagine myself sitting in the theater watching Reylo happen. And it did, and there you go. I was wrong, I'll admit it. Of all the things, I did not anticipate Reylo at all to be an inclusion in this movie. And did I close my eyes when I went and saw it the second time? Yes, I did. And I probably just won't watch that scene for the rest of time because I just... I'll admit that I was just a little bit shocked at the end of the movie, and obviously, like, so much happened. It was such a fast-paced movie. A lot was going on that by the end it felt like we had just run a marathon, and I almost kind of just was ready for it to be over when I first saw it because we'd just been through so much. I will acknowledge that I wasn't a huge fan of how it ended, but I will say that I've come to the realization that obviously Ben Solo, now deceased, is no longer able to carry on the Skywalker bloodline, essentially. And that is a sad realization that Luke is dead, Leia's dead, Han and Leia's only child, Ben, the last of the Skywalkers is now dead as well. As upsetting as that is to think about, that the pure Skywalker bloodline is no more, I do a little bit accept Rey proclaiming herself to be a Skywalker. I don't think she's like adopting herself into the Skywalker family at all, but I think it's more so a representation of what the Skywalkers have represented throughout the entirety of both the prequel, not so much when Anakin goes bad and everything, but you know, what he comes to stand for at his end in Return of the Jedi, and what Luke represents throughout the entirety of the original trilogy, Luke and Leia. There's so many allusions to what those two stood for and what they had been fighting for all along. As much as I didn't enjoy the ending when I had first seen it initially, I have come to accept that the Skywalker name is not over with, and Rey taking it on now is carrying on that lineage and what the Skywalkers represent in terms of hope and defeating evil. Again, I just want to reiterate that overall, I really did enjoy the movie. Yes, I have some complaints about it and some complaints about, you know, the neglect and disrespect towards Anakin's plot, but overall, I did like it. I did. I just want to say, like, if you liked it, don't feel ashamed for your opinion. And I think it's great that Star Wars fans are so passionate, and we could still be so divided, but we still have the same passion, and it's for Star Wars. And I just don't want this video to prompt any sort of hate or arguments or debate in the comment section. I just want us all to be happy. And if you need a good video to watch, I totally recommend Star Wars Theories video that he made. He illuminated some great points, and if you're feeling like ashamed at all for being a fan of The Rise of Skywalker, I'm gonna link that video because it was so great for me to hear as someone who didn't totally hate the movie. Feel free to have your own opinions. And if you liked the movie, that's great. If you didn't like the movie, that's great too. It's fine. Not everyone is going to like every single Star Wars movie. I think that's pretty much it from me today, guys. I'm sorry if this video was rambly and not very organized. I am still formulating my opinions on the movie, and these are very subject to change. What I think now may totally be different 5 years from now if I go and rewatch the sequels. Again, let's keep the comment section clean and polite and thoughtful. I am by no means saying if you didn't like the movie, you're not allowed to comment. Please, like, let's voice our opinions. I'd love to hear from people, but I just don't want my comment section to be a toxic breeding ground for hate towards Disney, because again, a lot of people worked on this movie, more so than we see from just the cast and initial like crew like J.J. Abrams and the other writers. So many people were involved in this, and it's very disheartening to hear that people are vocalizing hatred towards something that you poured so much of your energy into. So please just be thoughtful of all of the cast and crew that went into making this film and the entire sequel trilogy in general, because they put a lot of work into it. The Rise of Skywalker was not easy to wrap everything up, but I think they did it. I think it was great. So please just be thoughtful and mindful of all of the people who've spent many years working on this. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching and sticking through this video with me. Again, I'm sorry that it took me so long to get it out, but hopefully by now everyone has seen it and we can talk about it a little bit more in the comments. I'd love to hear your kind and clean opinions. I hope you guys have been doing well. Again, I hope you guys had a great new year, and I will see you all again very soon. Bye.